The Melchizedek priesthood is the greater of the two orders of priesthood recognized in Mormonism. The other is the Aaronic priesthood, the Patriarchal priesthood, which is sometimes confused as a separate priesthood, as explained by Boyd K.Packer, apostle of the LDS Church, as the Patriarchal order is not a third, separate priesthood. Whatever relates to the Patriarchal order is embraced in the Melchizedek priesthood. All other authorities or offices in the Church are appendages to priesthood. The Patriarchal order is a part of the Melchizedek priesthood, which enables endowed and worthy men to preside over the posterity in time and eternity. The Melchizedek priesthood is also referred to as the high priesthood of the Holy Order of God and the Holy Priesthood, after the Order of the Son of God, or simply as the High Priesthood. In Mormonism, unlike most other Christian denominations, the Melchizedek priesthood is thought to be held by common mortals and not solely by either pre-Aaronic priests such as Melchizedek or Jesus alone, as most Christians interpret the Epistle to the Hebrews. According to Joseph Smith, the name of this priesthood became Melchizedek because Melchizedek was such a great high priest, and to avoid the too frequent repetition of the name of the Supreme Being, Smith taught that this priesthood was on the earth since Adam received it and conferred it upon his sons Abel and Seth, and it was conferred successively upon the early biblical patriarchs. Through it Enoch led his people to become so righteous and obedient that they qualified to be translated as the city of Enoch. Noah held this priesthood, as did Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It remained on earth until the time of Moses, who received it under the hand of his father-in-law, Jethro, and it would have been given to the Israelites if they had been worthy of it and had not hardened their hearts. Restoration of the Melchizedek priesthood. Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery said they were visited by John the Baptist, who laid his hands on the head and gave them the Aaronic priesthood. Smith described the event in detail and gave an exact date when it happened. In contrast, he never gave a description of any vision in which he saw an angel separately confer the Melchizedek priesthood. However, by the turn of the 20th century, Latter-day Saint theologians believed that such a separate ordination by angels had occurred prior to the organization of the Church of Christ on April 6, 1830. This was largely because the early church organization contained the office of elder, which at least by 1835 was considered an office of the Melchizedek priesthood. As evidence for such a pre-organization angelic conferral, writers referred to a revelation in which Smith said he heard the voice of Peter, James, and John in the wilderness between Harmony, Susquehanna County, and Colesville, Broome County, on the Susquehanna River, declaring themselves as possessing the keys of the kingdom, and of the dispensation of the fullness of times. Thus, most Mormons suppose that Smith and Cowdery were visited by the three angels in 1829, and that they conferred the Melchizedek priesthood in the same way John the Baptist had conferred the Aaronic priesthood. However, the official church history, supervised written by Smith, states that the authority of the Melchizedek priesthood was manifested and conferred for the first time upon several of the elders during a general conference in early June 1831. When Smith's official history was first published in 1902, the compiler B. H. Roberts thought that this was a mistake, because it would not be consistent with the common Mormon belief that the priesthood had been conferred prior to the Church's founding in 1830. On the other hand, some recent Mormon historians accept Smith's history as correct and consistent with other historical records showing that other Mormons present at the conference dated the restoration of the Melchizedek priesthood to 1831. This conference had been a very significant event in the early church history, coming soon after the conversion of Sidney Rigdon, who believed that Mormon missionaries lacked the necessary power to adequately preach the gospel. Thus, in January 1831, Smith issued a revelation where he wrote that after Mormons relocated to Kirtland, Ohio, they would be endowed with power from on high and sent forth. In a revelation given to an individual, Smith assured the man that at the conference meeting he be ordained unto power from on high. One of Smith's associates that was present at the conference expressed the view that this ordination consisted the endowment, it being a new order and bestowed authority. And later that year, an early convert who had left the church claimed that many of the saints have been ordained to the high priesthood, or the order of Melchizedek, and professed to be endowed with the same power as the ancient apostles were. In 1835, the historical record was muddled a bit when the first edition of the Doctrine and Covenants altered pre-1831 revelations to make a distinction between the Aaronic and Melchizedek priesthoods, and to classify the offices of elder and apostle as part of the Melchizedek priesthood. The Melchizedek priesthood in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the largest Latter-day Saint denomination, the Melchizedek priesthood is one of two governing priesthoods, which is typically given as a matter of course to worthy male members 18 years and older. No exact rule exists about how much time a man must be a member first. He may receive this priesthood as soon as local church leaders feel he is prepared. Ordination is based on the recipient's age and worthiness and does not require any specific training or aptitude. A candidate for this ordination is interviewed and often counseled to study the 84th, 107th, and 121st sections of the Doctrine and Covenants to begin to understand the oath and covenant of the priesthood. The covenant a person makes with God when he receives the Melchizedek priesthood. The candidate is also usually asked to stand in a gathering of the members of the church to be publicly accepted as being worthy of ordination. For male Latter-day Saints, receiving the Melchizedek priesthood is considered to be a saving ordinance of the gospel. Shortly after the establishment of the church, the ordination of blacks to the priesthood was prohibited. Following a revelation to then church president Spencer W. Kimball, the church lifted the prohibition in 1978. An important purpose of giving the Melchizedek priesthood to every adult Latter-day Saint man is to allow fathers and husbands to be able to give priesthood blessings of healing, comfort, counsel, and strength to the children and wife, and to preside over the family unit in a righteous manner. Many LDS fathers give a priesthood blessing to the children before the start of each new school year or before an important life event such as marriage. Each Melchizedek priesthood bearer, regardless of priesthood office, is encouraged to give priesthood blessings when called upon by others. Offices of the Melchizedek priesthood in the LDS Church. In the LDS Church, there are 5 offices within the Melchizedek priesthood. Although the holders of the different priesthood offices hold the same Melchizedek priesthood, their assigned rights and responsibilities vary according to the priesthood office. Quorums of the Melchizedek priesthood in the LDS Church. Holders of priesthood offices are organized into quorums. The quorums are a brotherhood where members of the quorum assist each other, teach one another, and delegate particular responsibilities to individuals or committees. Members of the church who do not maintain the standards and people who are not members of the church are invited to participate in the quorum to enjoy the brotherhood priesthood and support, although they may not be given certain quorum responsibilities. In order to be called to the Aaronic priesthood office of bishop, a man must hold the Melchizedek priesthood and be a high priest. Presidencies. Each quorum and organizational unit in the church has a presidency attached to it. A presidency is usually composed of 3 members, the president and 2 counselors. Typically, a president is selected and he chooses the 2 counselors whom he would like to serve with him. On very rare occasions there may be only 1 counselor or 3 counselors. Usually, a secretary is also called by the president to serve, but he is not considered a part of the presidency. Each of the counselors is given a precedence, for instance, first counselor and second counselor. The 2 exceptions to these general rules of the quorum of the 12 apostles, which is presided by a single president, and a presidency of the 70, which consists of 7 presidents equal in authority. The counselors serve under the direction of the president and share in his responsibilities. The president may assign each counselor to handle certain areas of responsibility. The president bears the sole burden of being the final arbiter of decisions, but he is advised to receive advice from his counselors and pay close attention to their opinions and insights. When the president is released, the counselors are also released. Priesthood leadership callings. In addition to the regular offices of the Aaronic Melchizedek priesthood, there are other leadership callings within the priesthood. The table below lists these other priesthood leadership callings, with the table below it showing the organization of various callings within the church's hierarchy. LDS Church Hierarchy Summary.